the mixed meeting kind of protocols. So I'll just open with karakia. Whakataka taho ki te uru, whakataka taho ki te tonga, kia makinakina ki uta, kia mataratara ki tai, e he ake, an ate atakura he tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihe, Māori ora. We have no apologies. I think we are all either online or in the room. We have 4 people registered for public forum, 2 speaking, 2 presentations, and I'll just work through them in the order in which they are on my list here. So first up, we have Matthias Schaffner. Welcome, Matthias. So 5 minutes, and I'll give you a nod at 4.5.
Good morning. I was here a few weeks ago talking about the Lagoima process, and I won't repeat myself today. But since then, I was thinking, what is actually the problem? Because Lagoima should be really simple and straightforward. Someone wants to have a document, and you provide the document. Maybe it comes back to a letter from the Minister of Local Government. She said, councils are accountable for their communities, to their communities for their actions and decisions. It's all about accountability, or more precise, the lack of accountability. And I would like to substantiate my point with a few examples. Last week, information was released to me from a Lagoima request I made last year in August. This fact is quite interesting because in relation to my statements in the last meeting here, Ms. Ray said everything has responded to, but now we have proved that this was not quite accurate. I'm not criticizing staff here. I'm always open for an apology. And Mr. Mayor, it appeared you questioned my integrity by saying, quote, if it was true in relation to my statements, you're always invited to look through my pile of evidence. Back to accountability. Last year, TDC sent me information, quote, separate inquiries were made with the officers. The description provided by the officers matched with each other. The officers were asked separately and both corroborated the same sequence of events. Now, 1 year later, I get information on the same topic, and Officer 1 writes to Officer 2, here's my site visit note. If I have missed anything, please let me know and I will make the adjustments. That's how separate and independent they were when preparing their reports. And it perfectly aligns what Councillor Maru said. It seems sometimes we don't like answers we have to give. Of course, council like to give information when it shows a lack of integrity and accountability. Another example, last year in July, I sent 2 letters to TDC, tracked and signed by New Zealand Post. You even responded to one of the letter. A few weeks later, you executed the search warrant on me. Now, suddenly, these 2 letters do not exist anymore. You cannot find them anymore in your system. Why? Maybe because with the content I provided, you wouldn't be able to execute the search warrant in the first place. But surely this is just a stupid coincidence that exactly these 2 letters are missing and not the other 21 I sent. Another example, during the execution of the search warrant, your staff had body cameras. At the same day, just a few hours after the search warrant, I made a Lagoima request because I was really interested in all the information, including the video footage. But to my latest information, also some councillor on this table wanted to see the video recording. A few weeks after the search warrant, Mr. Kim Drummond confirmed that there is video recording. Quote, our staff both had activated body cameras. As a result, we now have a full picture of how the follow-up visit involving the exercise of the search warrant was conducted. I tried and tried and tried for more than 1 year to get this video footage. Then I involved the Ombudsman, and he directed TDC to release the video footage to me. Now, last Monday, I got the response, quote, council has confirmed that all copies of the body camera footage was deleted. This video footage, which is now deleted, would prove that the execution of the search warrant was unlawful. TDC had knowledge that I would use this video recording in legal proceedings to defend myself, to prove that the execution of the search warrant and gathering of evidence was unlawful. I had a right to get this video and to use it. And now TDC deleted this important piece of evidence. What about the Public Records Act that makes it clear that documents cannot be deleted when they are subject to a request for official information? And what about Section 116 in the Crimes Act? Quote, everyone is liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 7 years who conspires to obstruct, prevent, or pervert or defeat the course of justice in New Zealand. I don't see any reason why this section would not apply when TDC deletes the video recording that I wanted to use in a court case. Councillor Mackenzie, you said you are concerned about the well-being of staff, and you made the following statement. Staff and manager get up every day, come to work to try to do the best job they can do. Really? The best job they can do? What about your accountability, Councillor Mackenzie, or everyone in this room? Maybe you or anyone else in this room would like to make a statement today about what you just heard and the well-being, not of staff, but the well-being of your community. Because coming back to the letter from the Minister of Local Government last year, councils are accountable to their communities for their actions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Kristen Schaffner.
Oops, sorry. Good morning. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to speak. I was born in a country that does no longer exist. It called itself the German Democratic Republic. My parents did not get to travel or live where they wanted, learn about foreign cultures, or learn the basics of critical thinking. What I learned from that is that a name is merely a name. I have had the chance to start my school in 1991. For the first time in their career, our teachers give us what they could not give to any of their students before, when the curriculum was strictly controlled by the state. We had the privilege to be freely introduced to ethics, philosophy, various cultures and religions of the world, to literature, social and political studies. We had the privilege to be taught by one maths teacher from year 5 to year 13, who had just finished her career, her university degree, and who loved her job. She introduced us to the world of logic. We were taught that asking questions is the starting point to discernment. We learned that there was no shortcut to education. We learned that life is commitment and joy. I think you call it work hard, live hard. It is gaining experience. We learn to dispute and consider the counter-argument for the sake of the matter, not to humiliate. I am eternally grateful for the input and dedication I have benefited from, as they gave me a foundation for life. Given that experience in our national history, I have a deeply rooted commitment to democratic principles. My boundary is where yours begins and vice versa. We can cooperate with mutual respect and fairness. We had the chance to choose a life for our children. After visiting your beautiful country, we were instantly captured by the breathtaking natural features and the nature of your people. We loved that so many people from various backgrounds, be it cultural, socioeconomic, or educational, were living in the same neighborhoods and sending their kids to the same schools. We loved that it was not important who you are, but how you are. If you show commitment, you will be given a fair chance. At the age of 9, I started talking to refugees from North Africa to get better in my French and to teach them German in return. That was when I first learned about wealth, inequality, and that we are all someone's child, no matter which color of skin or whatever else. At the age of 10, I was fascinated by the idea of justice, and together with my friend, we retrieved smuggled cigarettes and passed them on to the police. Now, 2 of my children are of that age, and their life is quite different from mine. My daughter, at the age of 8, asked me to ask the CEO in a letter how she would feel if her privacy was invaded. My daughter is 10 now, and whenever she sees a council-branded car, she's wondering if it is spying on us. She is not adventurous about it. She is worried, and I am worried for the safety of my family and their well-being. I have been presented with documents just a few days ago that confirm 65 instances of covered observations from the boundary of our property within a 3-month period, from August to November this year, ranging from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., Mondays to Sundays, often twice a day. I have never met the gentleman, do not know how he looks, what car he drives, have never seen a warrant. Yet he knows about any car parked on the property, the way it is parked, whether a car or its boot is open, whether the lights are on, the curtains are drawn, or a door is half open, or whether someone is outside. He also took videos and photos that were not provided. I have no idea if the gentleman took photos of my children, if he is also coming at times that was not recorded, if he is still coming. We feel stalked, and I had to report harassment to the next police station as I am seriously concerned for our safety. I read the Search and Surveillance Act and could not find that this sort of frequent observation would be allowed for local council staff. I understood.
You're at 4.5.
Okay. I understood that even police would have to obtain a warrant from a judge when they are observing people for drugs or the like. I wonder whether the values and commitment we bring with us, namely a very strong commitment to democratic principles, are understood as such and welcome. I am a foreigner to this country and believe it is my duty to study the rules to know what is acceptable and what is not, which does not equate that I am denying its applicability to me. I understand the New Zealand legislation recognizes people's right to privacy and that action needs to be reasonable. I am firmly stating when and why I believe an action is not warranted, yet this does not equate to threats of violence. I am concerned that my family could be...
Now 5.5 minutes.
Oh, can I? Okay.
So if you just
Okay, I'll wrap up.
arrive at the end.
Okay, I have no dark skin to offer or tribal background. I was simply not born that way. However, the other day, I met a man from Tonga who shared his immigration story. He said that in his culture, they don't look at strangers from a perspective of color. A stranger for them is someone from behind the horizon. I really love this concept, and I'm grateful that this man shared his culture wisdom with me. I think this is what cultural communication is all about, widening one's horizon and getting to know each other. And I'm concerned that my family could be unlawfully discriminated against, and I request that this must stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we've got Lee Manson in relation to the Tauihu intergenerational strategy. Welcome, Lee. So you've got a presentation that I understand you are
We do. We're just waiting.
loading up.
While we do that, maybe a quick introduction. So, kia ora koutou, ko Lee Manson tōku ingoa. I'm project lead for the establishment of a community development agency for the region.
Namahinui, Kendra Douglas, tōku ingoa. Thank you for allowing us some time to come and talk to you.
So, the intention of developing a regional community development agency is to respond to community sector need, to facilitate collective action, and to take action on the Te Tauihu intergenerational strategy. It will do this by supporting a strong, connected, and well-resourced not-for-profit and for-purpose sector so that organizations and agencies can work more effectively and collectively to support the well-being of our communities and deliver on the relevant intergenerational strategy actions. I wanted to start by thanking Council for your support to date. We have one of the Council staff, Yulia, in our establishment group, and we have also had a member of Council, Councillor Walker, at our engagement, Hui. Nelson City Council and the DIA are providing some funding to support the establishment of the agency. The purpose of today is we want to give an update on the progress being made to establish the agency and call on Council to continue to support the establishment of the agency and be a key supporter of the agency once it's established. For now, we'd ideally like that support reflected in the 10-year plan. Can someone, it's not working. Can someone move the slide one? Brilliant, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so strategic alignment, reviewing and resetting the NGO sector is one of the 17 actions in Te Tauihu intergenerational strategy. And the agency will facilitate this action and support the delivery of the other relevant actions. It also links to the long-term council plan that reflects a clear commitment to community well-being and community outcomes. We'll go next slide, please. All righty, so exploring the need. Having a community development agency is not a new idea, and many regions have had such an agency for many years. Community Waikato is 18 years old, and Social Link out in Tauranga has been going for 11 years. They've been working with their councils and receiving funding and being empowered by them. Having one here in Te Tauihu has been on the boil for a number of years, I don't know if you can see on there, I think it says, been talking about it for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So what's interesting is we are developing a head of steam that in the recent years following COVID. So a couple of things that have been happening since COVID. During the significant and broad consultation and engagement leading to the development of the intergenerational strategy, a strong, resilient and efficient community sector emerged as a key to a strong economy and region. As a consequence, that action of reviewing and resetting the NGO sector is part of the strategy. In 2021, off the back of the COVID response, a feasibility study was done looking at the value of such an agency, and that was confirmed in that study. In 2022, the Tauihu Community Sector Survey went out, and that indicated 72% of respondents were in favour of this agency, focusing on networking, strategy development and planning, training and fundraising support. The survey is out again at the moment. It closes middle of December for this year, and early indications are that 44 of the 45 organisations that have responded support the establishment of this agency. So buy-in is definitely growing. Earlier this year, an interim steering group was formed and undertook a bunch of engagement activities, including in-person hui in May and June, where 78 people attended with broad representation from across the sector. There was a strong call for action. We had Shane Graham, CEO of Ngāti Rārua, Jennifer Beatson from the Regional Public Service, Ali Boswick from the Chamber of Commerce, Penny Molnar from CAN, all speak and advocate strongly for the establishment of this agency.
The picture there, yeah.
All right. That's okay. That's okay. What are we hearing?
The picture there was capturing aspects of that conversation that we had at that May hui with the 78 people.
Yeah, thank you, Kendra. So on the next slide, it should say, what are we hearing? Awesome. Thank you so much. So what is the problem? Not-for-profits are overburdened with regulatory and back office requirements. They're facing significant change from new legislation. They're struggling to find and retain board members. They're using valuable time and resource to continually apply for and justify funding. This leads to inefficiencies and less capacity to deliver services or innovate to better support our community's well-being. They're looking for ongoing regular training for their staff, support with governance. They're wanting to understand and upskill in Te Ao Māori, Te Reo Māori and Tikanga. They want to enhance their organization's management skills. They want to be able to identify and attract staff from the community. They're worried about staff well-being, health and safety, not being able to keep skilled staff, lack of funding and funding processes. They're needing to create strong organizational cultures. They're struggling with governance and financial management. They want to collaborate and they want to innovate to attract additional funding from local and central government as well as other funders. Unfortunately, many are too stretched to have the capacity or the time to be doing that. Some people managing community groups are struggling on their own and they want to network and connect. Could you, next slide? So why now? It's in our intergenerational strategy. In addition, the government sector is in the process of some significant multi-year reforms focused on well-being that are all looking to increase the participation of communities in the design and delivery of services to support people to thrive in place. So the health reform and the establishment of localities, well-being budgets, whole of government joined up responses at community level, and local government reform. The local government review published earlier this year, its key message was that local government must now own and drive change to make it fit for the future. It outlines local government's role in creating the conditions for and building community resilience, intergenerational well-being, and a strong local democracy. This is an opportunity for councils across Te Tauihu to get ahead of or even inform the inevitable legislative changes by supporting this agency to review and reset the NGO sector to deliver well-being outcomes more efficiently and effectively. We're also seeing a shift from top-down to community up, service design and delivery. On the campaign trail, you would have heard Christopher Luxon and National bemoaning bureaucracy and the bulging Wellington and the fat central government, too many consultants. They've promised to redirect funding to community providers to address mental health, job creation, etc. We want our region to be in the best possible position to leverage this shift, to collaborate and increase our not-for-profit for-purpose sector capacity to support well-being and secure that reprioritized funding. Can we go next slide? So there's strong support for this agency. So what will it do? It'll do three key things. The first is it'll support the development of a shared strategic direction and communicate and advocate for our community and region. It'll support community groups and agencies to network and find opportunities to collaborate better to meet the needs of the community within available resources. And lastly, it'll provide back office functions, governance services, training and advisory services, including things like centralized HR systems and processes, accounting functions, project management support, etc. Next slide. All right, so we have an establishment group. It includes community group members, iwi, local government, central government, and business. And it's working to progress. The work is progressing and gathering steam. A group of 26 people have emerged from those community hui that we held earlier in the year, and they include council staff. We're focusing on iwi governance, considering our operating model, engaging stakeholders, developing a business case, and taking some early actions. Last slide, please. Alrighty, so to reiterate, the intention of developing a regional community development agency is to respond to community sector need, to facilitate collective action, and to take action on the Te Tauihu intergenerational strategy. And our ask is that we would like to see Council continuing to support the establishment of this agency and to be a key supporter of the agency once it's established. We would ideally like that continued support to be reflected in your 10-year plan. Ngā mihi nui.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in and the presentation. Are there any, we've got about a minute of spare time. If there are any questions. If not, I think that is very clear. Good presentation and Rory. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one quick question, and that is, in terms of the support, is it monetary support? Is it support in terms of the need, or is it a bit of both?
It would be awesome if it were both, but at this stage, we're just looking for it to be in the 10-year plan to be reflecting the continued support of establishing the agency. Kia ora.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Murray. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, oh, sorry, Chris, I didn't see you.
All good.
On Zoom.
It was my timing was fine line. If I could, just a question. Kia ora, thank you for the presentation. Just wondering if there's been involvement in your sessions and pulling together so far of people and communities in sort of more what we might think of as outlying settlements, outside of Nelson and Richmond and even Motueka, but that this isn't just a sort of Nelson Richmond centric approach so far.
Yeah. I know. Chris is up there, Kendra, but yeah, you need to use the microphone.
Hey, Chris, I can't remember quite the whole of the attendance list that came, especially at that May hui, but we've got connections across to Golden Bay. We've got good connections through council and through DIA and various community agencies that work, like Tapawera. It's going strong with stuff. Yes, Motueka, there's linkages in there. We've had some conversations with Marlborough. So yes, we are in Nelson and most of the people that are on the establishment group are Nelson, although we've got someone here today who's from Mapua area, and yes, we're maintaining conversations across the region. Many of our meetings have either been in person and blended with Zoom.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. I know there's another couple of hands up, but we're out of time.
Send us your questions. There's the email on the presentation.
Yeah, the email's on the presentation. Send the questions. Thanks, Kendra. So yeah, I shouldn't have indulged in questions in the public forums too. Can you also send us a copy of the presentation?
I've got it.
Oh, you've got it. Sweet. Yeah, well, can we send councillors a copy of the presentation? Next up, Multicultural Nelson Tasman. Welcome, Marie and team. Same thing, 10 minutes, so I'll let you know near the end.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Oh, thank you, Kiora. Yeah, microphone is way taller than me. So, first of all, may I introduce our team in here. We are all our chair, who's Felicity, our manager, Anna, and our former chair and also board member, Mary. Kiora. So Kiora to everyone. So first of all, may I really thank the Tasman District Council for their vision, purpose, and community outcomes, which really mentions exactly what we're doing. So it is along the strong and resilient, inclusive communities and contributing to our diverse society and celebrating our culture and heritage. Well, that's what we are, and we've been doing it for nearly 30 years. I started the multicultural Nelson Tasman probably 29 years ago, 1994, with the support of other ethnic migrants and also the support of my colleagues at Internal Affairs Dean. And since then, it's been growing, supported by mayors of Tasman District. We've always been linked with you, Mayor Hurley, Mayor Kempthorne, the late Mayor Marshall, and Eugene Edgar, who was a former TDC councillor as well. And we are really grateful now that we've grown so much. Our vision answers your strategy outcomes, which is that migrants, newcomers, and locals celebrate their diversity in a welcoming and safe environment so that all may enrich our community. We're certainly doing that. And we're not just about cultural events anymore. We are we are doing service as well. We hold workshops, and my colleagues here will mention more about that. But we are growing. It's been 29, nearly 30 years now. And in the demographics of Nelson, Tasman, and really across the Motu has changed. And you're seeing diverse faces. You're seeing ethnic communities living here. You are healthcare workers, and from personal experience, my own Filipino community, I am from the Philippines. I've lived here, but I've lived here longer now than I have lived in my own country. They are residing here in Richmond as far as Tasman, Motueka, very strong communities. And we're not the only strong communities in the Tasman area. There's Indian, you've got your Pacifica, you've got a host of others. There's a Japanese community living across. So really, a diverse community is a thriving community, and we answer the socioeconomic, all the needs that you could imagine. And I know you will understand that. And again, we do invite you to enjoy, and you will see photos that photos speak. And these are just a few photos of our activities. We will be distributing later on all this, our annual report, which a lot of photos there that speaks so much of what we've done. So I'll let my other colleagues speak more, but historically you can talk to me about. Thank you, Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Anna Whaituku Ingoa. I'm the manager at Multicultural Nelson Tasman, been there for about 2.5 years now. So we're obviously a charity, so an important part of being a charity is where do we get funding from. So to keep us going at present, we get operational costs through applications to places like lotteries, National Fund, and also a little bit from COGS. We receive some operational funding from Rata Foundation and also from Nelson City Council and Lions Foundation. We also get project funding for one-off events and projects from funders such as Ethnic Communities Development Fund, MSD, of course yourselves, thank you very much for that, and Nelson City Council. So the way that you guys fund us at the moment is through the community grants, so that we can run things like the Tasman Asian Light Food Fair, which of course we hold every February and have been doing, I think, for about 6 years now, with an interruption, of course, due to COVID. And this year, we also received some funding from TDC to start a equivalent group of our multicultural youth Nelson Tasman. So we have one of those running at the moment in Nelson, and we're trying to get one going in Motueka and potentially in Richmond. So that's a work in progress. We also currently fund holding for a large one-year innovation project, which has been funded by the Ministry for Culture and Heritage, and that's called Shared Communities. And Marie's got the reports there. We'll hand those out. So that Shared Communities project is governed by a consortium of Nelson City Council, Multicultural Nelson Tasman, Nelson Arts Council, Makeshift Spaces. The project's worth $245,000, and it came out of this engagement report here at the end of 2021, which looked at some of the barriers that are preventing migrants and former refugees from engaging and participating in arts, culture and heritage activities. And off the back of that report and the subsequent funding, we've seen the employment of a full-time cultural navigator position. And there's also up to a tier of money available for communities to help them drive their own arts, culture and heritage projects. So funding is obviously an ongoing challenge for us as a charity. And without operational costs, we can't do the projects. So yeah, really important part of what we do, getting funding. Next.
Kia ora koutou, Felicity Palmer, Board Chair of Multicultural Nelson Tasman, and I just want to reiterate that we are Multicultural Nelson Tasman. We're not just a Nelson organisation, and we've been very proud and excited to cement that reality with a staff presence in Motueka. So since June 2023, we've recruited a part-time community coordinator, and she is working out of Community House in the heart of Motueka. We've held 2 youth events, and as Anna mentioned, we are working on a multicultural youth group, again, thanks to funding from yourselves. So again, we're very grateful for that support. We've also held a full-day cross-cultural workshop with funding from the Ethnic Communities Development Fund up in the Tasman region. More recently, one event that I attended that was a huge pleasure was the Migration Stories event. So we had one during Welcoming Week, which was really supported and helped by your staff member, Birta. And we've also have another one that has more recently occurred. Our staff member attended the Active Aging Expo in Motueka that was held recently, that some of you may be aware of. And also made a presentation with our Nelson-based migrant and former refugee community navigator to the Motueka-based whānau and community hui, which was extremely well received. An upcoming event that we have that you're very welcome to attend is our multicultural potluck dinner. It's going to be at Motueka Memorial Hall Kitchen at 6 p.m. on December 8th. So please put that in your calendars. And of course, I would be remiss not to mention the wonderful signing of the Statement of Commitment by our Mayor and the Council of the Welcoming Communities program that TDC is currently involved with. And also we have representation, we as Multicultural Nelson Tasman have representation on the advisory group to the Welcoming Communities program, and we're really proud and excited to be involved in that. I'm actually a constituent of TDC. I live in Upper Motere, so I really want to emphasize that we are Multicultural Nelson Tasman, and we're very aware of the trends in the Tasman region. We don't, obviously, it will be very interesting to see next year's the census data, but we know anecdotally that the changing face of the Tasman region and large numbers of migrants are moving into the Tasman region. So we'd love to see more diverse representation to those who live in the communities on community boards, school boards, and so on. One of the key things that we would really be appreciate from Tasman District Council would be a multicultural strategy. That a multicultural strategy could be a real keystone to how Tasman District Council plans its next 10 years. There's also demand in the community for a multicultural venue or hub. There's no sort of central venue or hub that could be a real selling point for the region, for newcomers coming into the region and feeling welcomed, feeling included. Skilled migrants, as you know, contribute heavily to the economy. There's a huge global competition for talent. So it's really important that newcomers feel settled, feel welcomed, and feel like they belong in their new community. So we really think that the welcoming community coordinators that have been embedded in councils, such as Birta here at TDC, is a really fundamental element of that, making the Tasman region a welcoming community. We really enjoy a great working relationship with the Welcoming Communities Coordinator. And again, we really see ourselves as multicultural Nelson Tasman. We see ourselves as serving the region. And so I'm very pleased and grateful to be here, and wish to express my thanks to Tasman District Council for the support you have shown to us over the years.
Okay, thank you. That brings you nicely to 10 minutes. So, I'd just like to thank you for coming in the presentation. Thank you for the work that you do. We've worked together now for a long time, on and off in different roles. Really appreciate the support you provide us at our citizenship ceremonies. And so regularly the Multicultural Nelson Tasman send a representative along to those ceremonies as well. So thanks for all the work you do, and look forward to continuing to working with you in the future. Thanks, Marie and team.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. And please continue to support us. We love you all. You'll get to have fun with us. Here you go.
Just wait. Can we just leave those things?
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
Right, we'll get back to the agenda. So declarations of interest, are there any in relation to any items contained on today's agenda? If not, late items, so in relation to 8.6 referral report coming through from the commercial subcommittee. So if someone move the acceptance, move Deputy Mayor Bryant, second, Councillor Mailing. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. We got a number of sets of minutes to approve. So starting with the 26th of October minutes. Move Councillor McKenzie, seconded Councillor Dowler. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. The 31st of October. Move Councillor Mailing, seconded Councillor McKenzie. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. 9th of November. Move Councillor Ellis, seconded Councillor Dowler. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. And then the confidential minutes of the 26th of October. Move Councillor Mailing, seconded Councillor McKenzie. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. And confidential minutes from the 9th of November. Move Councillor Dowler, seconded Councillor McKenzie. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. We'll move on to the reports. So the first two are in the order of the agenda, and then there's a number of just changes around which are slightly out of order because of staff members' availability. So the order I have on my run sheet, traffic control bylaws, Saxton Field Capital Works, temporary road closures, and then there is amendment to Port Tarakohe Development Resolution, Partnership Agreement, and the Motueka Harbour and Coastal Works Reserves. So that's slightly out of order. With that, I'll come across to Jamie and Mike in relation to the first item.
Yeah, Mike. Happy to take the report as read and answer any questions.
Right. Oh, there we go. So I take it this is largely mechanical / machinery. These decisions had previously been made. So
correct. It's about a large table of GPS coordinates you see in there representing the diagrams that have been previously approved.
Okay, thank you. Anything, Councillor Maru?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just through you, the ones, if we go to the slides, I think it's 32 to 33, it's the ones impacting Harbour Road, Tudor Street, Motueka. So my understanding at the moment is we've pushed hold on that works. Do we need to do those changes in this, or can we capture that when we've got more clearer scope on what we'll be undertaking?
Jamie?
Yeah, Through the Mayor. So this is just a part of the traffic control device schedule, reflecting decisions that the council have already made. It's a separate matter to whether construction occurs, which is subject to other decisions outside of our control just at the moment. So to put it in short, that if ultimately any of the traffic control devices that the council has previously approved don't end up being installed, then we would bring back a report to correct the schedule so that they don't exist and, you know, the schedule reflects correctly what's on the ground.
So just one more, I'm not being cynical, just in terms of process, so we can take them out if we approve them today, but my understanding is at a governance level, this is the only absolute control that council has around this table, that it is either approved or not approved, because the delegation for the work isn't delegated to the council. So my concern is if we approve this, I don't think we necessarily get the other decision on what areas of the project works comes back to council formally.
So I understand we've already approved the works. This is
the mechanism that's needed to actually infect the works, isn't it? So without these works can't.
So what are you suggesting is you'd like to debate the contents of this and whether they're included or excluded, and or
So through you,
made?
I'm just wondering if the safeguard is not to include those ones at the moment, and it comes back at a later date when we know the works. Because my understanding through the chair is that the works have been questioned to Whakakotahi for a rescope from this to the western side of Motueka.
Jamie.
I mean, yeah, I'm no expert on process, but given the council has a standing resolution on this, I would hope that it's sufficient that staff assure you that that the implementation of some of these devices are subject to other decisions. That's not a decision that gets made here today. And yeah, like I said, if anything changes with regards to the content of the Transport Choices program, which is up in the air at the moment, we would bring back an appropriate resolution to change the traffic control device schedule.
I take it Councillor Murray's question is actually the reverse of that, though. His question is, let's assume that they don't say we want rescope or we're not going to give you the money. They say the money's all available. I think Councillor Murray's question is, if we pass this resolution today, the money is available, let's just assume. All this happens, there is no further recourse back to council for decisions about which ones may or may not proceed. That's, I think, his question.
Correct, yeah. I mean, all we have that's certain at the moment is that we have approval for funding, and we have a previous resolution of council to enable these to be enforced once they're built.
Yes,
You've told me the question's answered, and I guess I take the conversation of Jamie as that we will have some more conversation about this. I'm just nervous that we're approving something that we're uncomfortable with.
Okay, Councillor Kennemont and then Councillor Walker.
Streets for People, Mapua. There's some changes in there that have not been widely circulated around Mapua. Would that be right?
Yeah, I'm not aware of what changes might have happened out there that are not as per the plan.
Okay, let's start with the planter boxes.
So just so we can say, if we're going to have a debate about all of the different, that's slightly different than what this resolution is intended to try and achieve. Councillor Murray did ask the question about whether or not there is recourse on some of the ones where there has been questions asked. I think the indication that he's got is maybe, as opposed to necessarily, but I don't necessarily want to go through every one of these items and start debating the merits or otherwise of the proposals, because these are decisions we've previously made. So what is your question about the planter boxes in Mapua?
I'll withdraw that question and I'll talk to you offline about them. my bits of paper.
Again, transport choices versus streets for people, and there's various overlaps and
Yeah, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. Mine's really just endorsing where Councillor Maru came from. I guess I just want it noted that as 3 Motueka ward councillors, we have been acknowledged that we've asked, and it has been affirmed that we've put that said Tudor Thorpe Street intersection on hold, that there is some scope there to be repurposed, waiting a response from Whakatahi. And I sit here very awkward, and please don't take that personally, team, but the words hope and maybe does not give me assurance. And if we vote for this today, be assured there'll be a squeaky wheel sitting back at this table when that project is moved and the funding relocated. Thank you.
okay. So again, I'll come across to James. So just to confirm Councillor Walker's point about particularly about that intersection, and I know the conversation that's been ongoing. So that is still a live conversation in terms of, and that is notwithstanding this resolution being passed, still going to continue to be a discussion. Okay. Thank you. I'll take the nods as a yes. Councillor Greening, and then Councillor Dell and Councillor McKenzie.
Yeah, through the chair, just a straightforward question, really, mainly for the benefit of the public in Richmond. On Hill and Queen Street, there is proposed a temporary roundabout. I was wondering if Jamie could explain why the stop sign control on Hill Street is insufficient, and when will the stop control be returned back to a stop sign control?
Jamie.
Through the Mayor. So if the council gets approval to proceed with the transport choices works in Richmond, that will involve very significant changes to the way traffic flows around Richmond. The team have identified that the way traffic will flow will put huge pressure on the Hill Queen intersection during the course of other intersections being closed. And so vastly increased traffic volumes, which will, for anyone who goes through that intersection during peak afternoon hours, it tails back quite significantly due to the stop signs and the relative traffic volumes turning right and left and heading straight through. And that would get quite bad, or certainly worse in the afternoon peak. So a temporary roundabout would flow much better and just result in less delays to people at that intersection. I mean, this is all theoretical if we get funding from Whakatahi, which is not a guarantee. Once that project, like just assuming we get permission to proceed and a temporary roundabout is installed there, we would take the opportunity to monitor how that works, get feedback on whether people think it works better than the existing intersection, and then the council could decide what it wants to do with any future layout of that intersection.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dell and then Councillor McKenzie.
Yeah, apart from supporting the other 2 Motueka ward councillors with their statements, page 8 of your report, of the report, 7th line down, we have 1 NP no parking on Par Road and the Motueka, and then the next one, or the 2 below it, are Par Street Motueka. It's actually Par Street, not Par Road. Seeing it's an official document, I think it should be corrected.
Thank you, and apologies for that error.
And just quickly, nothing to do with, well, I'll better do it offline.
Yeah. Whenever you start a question with nothing to do with, it's probably a good idea. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you very much through the chair. Just with respect to Mapua, I mean, we've been implementing the Streets for People project, and some things have sort of been tweaked along the way. I realise that this paper is just asking us to approve the GPS coordinates for all the locations that we have previously approved. So my question is, can you just give me an assurance that with respect to Mapua,
what we are approving today in terms of the GPS coordinates marries with what we've actually implemented on the ground?
Should I say yes?
Yep. Thank you. Councillor Dakey and then Councillor Mailing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to move the report and noting it's just a few minor changes, and they're noting the changes to Hill Street as well, which are a bit more significant, but we had already approved anyway, so happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Dakey. Councillor Mailing, happy to second. I will put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Next up, thank you, gentlemen. Next up, we have a referral report from the Saxton Field Committee in relation to Capital Works. Grant, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning. A couple of things I just want to draw your attention to regarding this report. Firstly, the AMP is the first standalone AMP that has been produced for Saxton Field. Previously, it's been a chapter in the Reserves and Facilities AMP. So that's one difference with this time round. The other point was that this will inform, the AMP will inform the LTP, and there will be an opportunity if there's any changes through that process that will be delegated to the group managers from NCC and Tasman District Council to make those changes following the LTP process. Happy to take any questions.
Questions, Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so just a question to Grant and Rob in terms of the background to the budgets and the investment that we're making. Have you had a chance to scrutinise those figures with our Nelson colleagues following our last Saxton committee meeting?
Through the Mayor, yes, we have met with Nelson City staff and we've been through those budget lines line by line, and we're satisfied with where we're at now, and yeah, happy with the process.
Okay, just one further. There's a feasibility amount for a potential skate park facility across Saxton Field, and it is currently Circus Green as an identified site. But is there, as part of that feasibility, are there other sites also being explored across Saxton Field?
There's the ability to explore other sites, and at previous Saxton Field committee meetings, we've talked about even being off-site, not at Saxton Field. But we can certainly look at any area as far as I'm aware within Saxton Field for that facility.
Thank you. I'm happy to move the motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Murray. Is there a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Ellis. Councillor Mailing.
Yeah, just in relation to when I was going through this yesterday, I looked at baseball in particular. And when I look at the investment that's gone on in softball with the 4 diamonds there, and I saw the baseball tournament using the softball diamonds last year when they were juniors. I think they were up to 14 years of age, because I remember the Mayor threw a couple of pictures, I think, early on. But it just seems that there's a big investment in the future in relation to baseball. I'd like the 2 sports to work closer together, because at junior level, they can use the same diamonds. They've done it before. And there aren't that many senior players. And what they do is they pinch them from each other. And I've seen that with rugby and rugby league in the past. And certainly I can see why baseball's coming ahead, because it's a pathway to university. But I'd like an emphasis that we get the 2 sports to work closer together than against each other, as has happened. A message to take to your committee.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mailing. Just for clarity, so this is approving or accepting, whatever the word is, receiving the report. Say we're not, and it informs the long-term plan. So we're not deciding to fund a skate park, or say it's the asset management plan for Saxton's Field that will inform our decisions, and they will be whatever they are based on our other challenges around funding.
That's correct.
Okay, well, good. Thanks for that clarification. Okay, Councillor Greening and then Councillor Mackenzie.
Yes, so you've made mention of the fact that if there are any LTP changes, we'll fold them in. I'm just wondering, how do I frame this? We have RFCs for Richmond, and we are talking about a destination accessibility park, basically a destination park for children. What's the scope, given that may not be an express discussion in the LTP, but is implicit in one of the AMPs, i.e. the spending of RFCs in Richmond? How do we raise or get that discussion going in terms of it being possibly on Saxton Field? The advantage of Saxton Field, I'm conscious of, is the fact that Nelson will come in as a co-funding partner, whereas if we do this stuff by ourselves, they don't. And hence getting stuff on Saxton Field is to our advantage and to certainly Richmond's advantage. So what's the play there? And in terms of skate parks, again, I just lean into the fact that it's more advantageous to get a skate park on Saxton Field than have it somewhere else, because then Nelson Council is not necessarily obliged to co-fund it. So I'm quite keen for these two types of recreational facilities to be on Saxton Field.
So, sorry, Mark, is your question, can we use RFCs on Saxton Field, or how do we get the conversation about the destination park? Clearly the skate park is mentioned in here specifically.
Yeah, so the skate park's mentioned specifically, and staff have alluded to the fact that it may move off Saxton Field, which is a bit of a concern.
Yep.
So I'm just raising that concern. I don't necessarily agree with moving off Saxton Field. But yes, my other matter is in relation to how do we get a discussion so we get a destination park into Saxton Field, which currently isn't in the plan, but is in our RFCs.
Okay, thanks, Grant.
Through the Mayor, in terms of the destination playground, I don't think that is, I mean, we can have that conversation, and maybe it would go back to the next Saxton committee meeting. There is funding for a playground at Saxton Field currently. That would require probably more funding if it's going to be fully accessible. Will definitely require more, but we can definitely have that conversation. We are also looking at other locations within Richmond, as you're aware, for a fully accessible playground.
And our RFPs can be applied to that as well, to Saxton Field, just to clarify that?
Yes. Yes, they can.
Yes, just want to make sure we're all clear that that can be done. Fantastic. So yes, so that can be added to the agenda. Will it be added to the agenda for the next Saxton Field then?
So yeah, I think that's a process that we can go through in terms of, I guess, firstly, it's a conversation probably with Richmond councillors, and if they provide some direction to staff that they would like it applied to that agenda, in the context of having a conversation about where that might be, given where the funding is likely to come from, then I'm sure that can be done. I'm getting nods from Grant. So.
I'm just hearing from the Nelson side. I'm hearing from the Nelson side they're keen for a destination park. Been advocating this for years. So it'd be great if it was on Saxton, because it would definitely benefit Richmond businesses and the community as well.
Yep, all good. Okay, so conversation to be had. Thank you. Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you through the chair. So, so I get that the activity management plan will be a draft until which time we adopt a LTP, and then it will turn into a final. Just as a rough kind of indication, I mean, when we had previously had discussions about the level of operating expenditure that was sought for Saxton Field, I think we got the impression that it was a significant increase on the current level of funding. So this draft of the activity management plan, how does that level of operating compare to what it is currently?
Through the Mayor, in terms of any change, there isn't any significant change in the level of funding or operating funding. It's pretty much consistent, yeah, with previous years.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hill.
No, all good, thanks now.
Okay, thank you. Righto, it's been Councillor Dakey.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Just with the line item media towers, it's 316,000 in year 6, 29/30. Do we get some point a revenue line back against these items? How will we see that, the justification for the tower funding?
There will be an income line that NCC will be obviously receiving in relation to that facility. But that's all I can tell you at this stage.
I guess my question is, when do we get to see that? Obviously, this is a draft. At what point before we approve the final do we get as Tasman councillors, get an overview of that? Just putting that out there.
I'll have to check that for you.
Thank you. I'll come to Councillor Murray for his right of reply. Just one question along the same lines, Councillor Dakey. So in that A of the item 2, yeah, there was an income line budgeting 320,000 income in each of the years. So can I read that there's 400,000 going out and 320,000 coming in each of those years, or is there 800,000 going out and 620,000 coming into Nelson City, or how does that work? Where's the revenue come from?
So the skating entity are going to contribute. My understanding is approximately 80% of the.
So that's where that clarifies. I did wonder if that was the case. Thank you. So the net cost to the two councils, should that eventuate, is the balance between the two. Okay. So, Councillor Murray,
really quick reply. So in terms of the first combined activity management plan for Saxton Field, that's a milestone. That's great. And just including in that, our budget lines have been quite different to some of the cost centres, I believe, Councillor McKenzie. So whilst the total is similar, some of the item items were out of sync when we scrutinised them, but overall it's within that adjustment. So yeah, happy to move.
Thank you. With that, I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Jamie, temporary road closures.
Thanks. I'm happy to take the report as read. Answer any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Dowler.
Yeah, happy to move.
Move Councillor Dowler, seconded Councillor Walker. Anything further? Yeah.
Could I just get the date of the report of when the event is? It's my understanding it's the 1st, not the 3rd of December. Oh, is it?
And something.
Sorry, my page 156, it says for the Motueka Christmas Parade on Friday, the 3rd of
Okay, so now it says that the resolution now says, so this is the one we'll run with, because
You're quite right. Sorry.
There's a mismatch between the days and the dates.
Yeah, apologies.
The days right. The dates right.
Clause 4.2 has an error in it, so apologies for that.
So yeah, thank you with that clarification, because it'd be terrible to have the road closed one day and the parade on another one. That would be a bad one. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Right, Marie. Oh, next.
Oh, this is the.
Yep. Mike.
Through you, Mr. Chair. This is a relatively straightforward matter. In presenting the resolution to the council previously, there was a staff error. We referred to a capital budget being brought forward. In fact, that capital budget hadn't yet been approved. It was a capital budget that was foreshadowed for the long-term plan. And so this change to the resolution is simply to authorise the unbudgeted expenditure and bring the matter into a line with council policy.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Questions, comments, moving, seconding.
Well, if I may, for you, Mayor, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor. Nick, other than that, all the funding and everything stays the same through this resolution from the name of the organisation. I forgot Kanara, is it? Through the chair, yes, correct. Thank you. Okay, I'm happy to move.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dowler. Seconded, Councillor Greening.
You indicated you were jumping around the agenda earlier on. I'm just wondering which item are we talking to
So
here?
item 7.7, amendments to the council resolution in relation to Port Tarakohe development.
Okay, so Port Tarakohe, I just want to get an idea of why the resolution is moving reference to the debt and why it's referring or removing the unbudgeted capital works.
Right.
Through you, Mr. Chair. In the original resolution, it was assumed that we were bringing budgeted capital expenditure forward. As it transpired, that budgeted capital expenditure had not been approved by council. So the intent of this resolution today is to correct that error and authorise the unbudgeted capital expenditure as it would be best described now.
And the removal of the debt reference?
That is in relation to the funding. The amount of that capital expenditure will be partly debt funded. It'll also be partly funded out of other funds that are available to the activity.
So would this now breach the debt cap we have in place, or is that why we're not referring to it anymore, or are we still operating within it? I'm just wondering why we're removing the words if we're trying to operate within our debt cap.
No, it won't cause a breach of our debt cap.
So why would we remove those words then if it doesn't remove the debt cap?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little confused because we're about to, as part of the LTP, reconsider the debt cap. The timing of this expenditure and the reprioritisation of the main capital works program should mean that we don't breach our debt cap. We are committed to carrying out the works because we have signed an agreement with central government to fund their part of this project. And so it was appropriate, I believe, to bring that reference or change that reference to the debt cap. I'm not forecasting a breach of the debt cap at this point in the year. Prior to the adoption of the LTP, which was lucky to have a new debt cap that is higher than the existing one.
Is it, and I appreciate that the debt cap is a fluid beast at the moment, but is it possible to still keep the reference to not exceeding our debt cap and not specifying the level of it? Because at the moment, as it's worded at the moment, there's no restriction on this going above our current or future debt cap.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we could amend the resolution to include a noting provision in that regard. I just need a few moments to word
okay, well,
that amendment.
You think of the wording, and I will. Are there any other questions? If not, Mike, if you just think of what words to add.
Words that come to my mind are just exceeding TDC's debt cap.
Through you, Mr. Chair. On reflection, the reference is to the draft budgets for the 24-25 year. That is the first year of the LTP. And therefore, the reference to the current debt cap will be problematic for us because for the LTP, you'll have a new financial strategy and a new debt cap.
I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
In the sense of, no, you don't want to link it to the current one if it's going to happen in the subsequent year. But if the debt cap changes, one is assuming that this is not going to breach it. So whichever way you cut it, as long as it doesn't refer to the current one, if it just references the debt cap,
Yeah.
then
Will be reviewed to minimise the risk of council exceeding its debt cap, full stop or semicolon and.
That would be an acceptable wording.
Okay. Right, so I'm not sure if Mark can see those words. So you happy with that?
Yeah, I can
Councillor
see those
Green?
words. Yep, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Cool. No worries, thank you. Righto, I will put the resolution. Oh, sorry. The mover and second are happy, yes, they are. I will put Councillor Dallin. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Right, next up we have the partnership agreement. So again, out of order, apologies, although we probably could go back now that Marie's left, but seeing as Renee's here. 7.8.
Okay. Just obviously taking the report as read, I would like to take you to point 2.1, where it states any material differences from the draft. There has been one change since this draft had come to you, and it is on page 206 of your report, and it's merely a changing of a heading. It was shared decision making, and that has been changed to strategic collaboration. So open for questions.
Okay, thanks, Renee. So with that note or adjustment, open for discussion, moving or seconding.
Could you quickly just mention which one we've jumped to now? I didn't quite grasp.
Oh, sorry, it's item 7.8, the partnership agreement. Yeah, apologies.
Might be useful to mention the title of the document you're jumping to.
Yeah, and the next one, so you can pre-prepare, is 7.4.
Lovely. Yeah, I have a question, but I can wait. I usually get
no, you're up. First up, best dressed.
Oh, first up. Oh, fantastic. Okay, so fully support a partnership agreement that outlines the framework to work together. It's all about how we work together. But I just point out some wording in here, which I think could be interpreted slightly differently. On page 198, we say we seek to address the ways in which rights and voices of tangata whenua have been treated. And the key words are the ways, because it's all about how. This is all about a partnership agreement about how we work together, and this is the framework document about how we work together. At page 200, the wording slightly changes. And the wording now is the agreement seeks to uphold rights and interests of tangata whenua, including land rights and interests. No reference to the way we work, although I know the whole document is about the way we work. So I'm just wondering, and I've raised this before in workshops, whether that wording could be misinterpreted by people and whether we just need to clarify that this is about the ways we work as opposed to just upholding rights and interests.
Renee.
Thank you. I think that first paragraph is actually more about acknowledging historic impacts. And the second part is where we're looking to work to how we're going to work together.
So we're going to seek to uphold rights and interests.
I would hope so.
At any cost to council.
Well, but I think now you're running the risk of misinterpreting or adding adding words in.
Well, you know, there's no constraint on this. There's no. I thought this was about. I thought this was about working together. Not,
so it is.
And saying we're going to uphold all rights and interests. That's
Renee's point about the first paragraph effectively being a backward-looking, as opposed to a forward-looking commitment / obligation.
this document doesn't actually hold us liable or accountable in any way. It's not a contract that binds us to anything with iwi. We have obligations to work with them and have a relationship, and that's what this document is outlining.
Cool. That's the answer I was fishing for. So that's great, fantastic. So no one in the public misconstrues these words, and all parties understand what the document is about. Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hill.
Kia ora, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A lot of documents get written, particularly strategic type of documents and relationship documents and MOUs, and we've all probably read quite a stack of them. And I've read a fair few over the last years, and I can say that this is one of the more meaningful documents that I've written that involves iwi and Māori concepts and approaches to the world and life. And when I read it, the depth of meaning gets conveyed to me. And I guess it can be read at different levels, and some people might scan over it and think, oh, this is it's a good idea that all the iwi and the councils work together. You know, for many, many years, there have been many people who have worked very hard to build the relationships between iwi and each of the three councils. And why this might seem, it's interesting, isn't it? So when you arrive somewhere, it's not so obvious, I think, to just how much work and challenge has gone into, and how much difficulty there's been in the past over decades. So if I've probably said this before, I'll probably say it again, but you know, if you'd asked me 15 years ago if we'd ever have a document like this, I would have been hopeful, but certainly wouldn't have thought that we'd get there. So I don't want the significance of this and the depth of meaning of it to be lost on us. I think in terms of rights, I think given we've got the Wainui Urupa matter coming up later, I think that's a very good example of ensuring that iwi rights are upheld, because they often have not been. And that's rights in terms of law, legislation. Yeah, that's what we're talking about in terms of rights. And so we don't want to have situations happen in the future that have happened in the past, where legal rights have been impinged on or undermined or ignored, or whether through consciously or not. So the languaging around upholding iwi rights is really, really important and relevant. I'd like to move the resolution, and I thank those that have worked hard on this and have and delivered a very articulate, well-framed piece of work.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. So it's been moved. Is there a seconder? Councillor Kinnamonth. But you just want a second. I just thought you might want to say something as well. But that's all good. If you don't, it's not a requirement. So it's been moved and seconded. But if you do wish to say something, feel free to do so.
Thank you. I'm just getting used to standing orders. Page 194, in your table there, line number 2, I would have said, instead of low significance or no significance, I think this is huge significance. And I'd like to see some explanations and words beside that to show what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, so there is a technical meaning for significance to the council that is set out in our significance policy. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's insignificant in the bigger picture sense. But Renee.
There we go. I actually asked that question of Janine when I was looking at this document too, because I thought this is going to have a huge impact on our relationship, and hopefully positive impacts on all these items in there as well, but was explained that it's around the risk to the council.
Yeah, so the technical meaning of significance as opposed to the dictionary meaning of significance. So, but point well made. And
forgive me, I'm learning this job.
No, that's fine. No, I mean, the significance thing is just one of those kind of local government oddities that exist.
I've got a couple more questions. Have we got time?
Yes.
Okay, page 199, under the paragraph, we are Te Tauihu. You talk about commitment to protect, respect, and nurture the land and sea and each other. You don't mention air, so I would have thought air quality would be quite a good thing to have in there that says if we're going to put pollutants into the air, that you'd want to be involved in that as part of this partnership. Do you want to add in air in there or leave it out?
So, Renee.
It could be covered by something like te taiao, which is the environment as a whole. So that could be feedback that goes back.
So there's a number of parties involved in the drafting of this. So of course, every time we change the wording, then we're back into a bit of a circular conversation. But yeah, I'll be guided by Renee in terms of the process from here in terms of final wording.
Well, I would say that would be significant. And I would have thought all the parties would want to be involved in the holistic approach of what this partnership is looking at. And I'd ask that if you did take it back to all the stakeholders with that view, either amending this or a future agreement.
Through you. Yeah. I can take it back to the working group to discuss how we would deal with adding that in. I wouldn't see it as a material change though, so it could be added in.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, no, that's it, all good. Right, anything further? Did I have a second? Oh, I did have a seconder, Councillor Kinamont. So again, I think I'm just noting actually coming off the back of Councillor Kinamont's question around significance, I think it is a significant agreement in terms of the partnership working together. And I guess we've come a long way in this space over the last 5 years, I'd say. That doesn't mean there aren't going to be continuing challenges around working through a whole range of issues that exist, as there are working with all sorts of groups within our community. But I think this is a step forward in terms of just setting out, like at a high level, and understanding that our intention is to work collectively, where there are benefits to both parties plus the community generally. So I think not underestimate the significance of something, despite the fact being a high level, despite the fact that it's not binding or I guess legally requiring things of each party, but it certainly sets out the way that we'd like to work going forward. So again, assuming that we can get the other parties to agree to a final set of words in drafting, then it would be nice to be able to get this over the line at some point in the not too distant future. The first part of which is to put it to our council, so that I will do. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Right. Next up, 7.4. We'll try and get through a couple of these, well, if they're relatively quick. And then we'll break briefly for a cup of tea. Nick. So 7.4, page 160, I think. Motueka Harbour and Coastal Works Reserve Fund Policy Update. Nick, over to you. Or Mike, as it happens.
3, Mr. Mayor. We do need to amend resolution number 3. The Motueka Community Board met last night and approved funding up to $30,000 from the Motueka Harbour and Coastal Works Reserve Fund to fund the development of the options report. So if I could just, this report assumed that this council meeting would occur before the community board meeting occurred.
So that changes to 30. Is that the upshot? So the 60 changes to 30?
And staff won't need to present that resolution. It's already been presented. So it's probably not, I would probably just drafting on the fly. I mean, council notes rather than approves that the Motueka Community Board approved. So, notes. Should we say at its meeting on the 21st of November? Knowledge.
Right.
Thank you. That is.
So that replaces
that replaces 3.
Okay, just for clarity. Right, thank you. Deputy Mayor Brian.
Thank you. Just a question around the report. So at 1.2, where it's moved Councillor Maru, Councillor Walker, that's an old resolution, I take it, from 2016. So what's happened in the intervening years?
You don't want everything, do you?
No, just a very brief summary.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the brief summary is council approved for us to put some money into a report on the mudflats reserve back in February, subject to community board approval. When it came to be presented to the community board, feedback we had was that there was some discrepancies in the policy, particularly around what was meant by the term coastal and the scope of the policy. And so we sent it back to legal to get reviewed. They have reviewed the policy. They've made it more succinct, and they have aligned the diagram with what's regarded as coastal in the TRFP.
Right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dowler.
I don't know whether it's relevant, but the reason that was changed last night was so that the outcome of the discussion with the consultant was going to come back to the community board before it went out for public consultation. I brought up the fact that I felt the staff, possibly even though staff are full on, and I admitted that last night, but they could walk through the door and have a chat to the planners to see what restrictions are actually on this land. It's just across the road. We just got kicked off there with the possibility of building a swimming pool because of coastal inundation. So I didn't want the staff going down or the consultant going down the fact of possibly putting in that it may become residential or something weird that's going to be affected by coastal inundation, and the planners are going to say no. So that was the reason why I put the brakes on it last night at the meeting during the discussion, and the board members agreed with that. I also have an issue with the outline on the map, just adopting the coastal marine area of the TRMP, because it covers a lot of private land within that area. And as well as staff might turn around and say to me that it won't affect the private land, I have seen stuff go through this building before that it might only be the corner of someone's section or something, but later in life it comes true and that area gets affected by a council decision. So I'm very wary about drawing lines where it affects private land. So I'm just, once again, as I did last night, voicing my concern over the green line as it's listed.
So I'm assuming the green line is the same green line that's contained in the planning maps. And the implications on private property come from the line being in the planning maps, not, I wouldn't have thought for it to be included in the policy around the use of the money that's in the Motueka Report Endowment Fund. Because, well, no, I'm just trying to clarify that we're not putting this line in. We're not suddenly deciding this is a line. This line exists as it is in the planning maps for X amount of time, and that any implications of that line on property owners arise from that particular place, if you know what I mean. So I was struggling to see what the implications of the Motueka Report Endowment Fund,
right? So
using that same line are.
The report that was put to the community board on the agenda had the old Coastal Endowment Fund lines drawn on the map. Yesterday afternoon, we got a late email from Emma G, the staff member that looks after the board, with an update. What we've got today. So what was originally put to the community board, which I read, I was happy with. Also, and I'm thinking, the heck, this has changed.
So is your question, why did it change?
Well, yeah. And why did we go to the coastal marine area of the TRMP?
Okay, so that's the question. Why did we use this line as opposed to the old line?
First point I'd make is that it's up to council to draw the line on the map where it sees it's appropriate. And so back in, it would have been 2012, when the original policy was developed, came out of a series of legal actions that council was a party to. That's covered off in the report in brief. At the time, the map that is in the current policy was drawn, but the map in the policy conflicted with the wording that was within the policy. And therefore, we attempted to align I suppose the map with the wording. Was considered that using the definition in the TRMP was appropriate. Remember that this doesn't affect private property rights. This simply defines the area that council can, at its discretion and with the support of the community board, spend funds that are in this particular account. And so staff don't consider that the fact the area contains some private properties, as it's defined, will impact council's decision, because it's about council spending funds with the approval of council and the community board. Therefore, we did not see the expansion of the area so it aligned with the TRMP as being a particular contentious issue, and it provided for an alignment between different policies and documents that council has.
So can I clarify one step further, just for my own? So the wording that's contained at under definitions, the previous definition was, again, correct me if I'm, within the defined boundaries from the Rewalker River mouth to the northern end of Kina Peninsula, blah, blah, blah. So that was already in the definition. The lines on the map didn't necessarily match with that definition. And so we've added the words the coastal environment area within the defined boundaries.
Yes.
And so we just have one consistent set of boundaries in which we could potentially spend the money should we choose to, blah, blah, blah.
That is correct.
In conjunction with consulting the community board. Okay. So are you less happy, more happy, no differently happy? Okay, so you like the old boundaries. Okay. I don't have a mover and seconder, so Councillor Murray.
So just a question in terms of the new policy, and now that it's $30,000. So in essence, Enterprise could have approved $30,000 and wouldn't have to go through this process. Is that correct? Because the policy says the Enterprise Committee may approve expenditure provided if it's an approved budget or less than $50,000, and A, B, and C the reasons for. Does the approval for $30,000 actually sit with the community board or back with Enterprise now?
Through Mr. Chair, Enterprise can recommend expenditure if it's up to council to approve it.
Not in your new policy. New policy says the Enterprise Committee may approve such expenditure if it is within the approved budget or less than $50,000 and spent on A, B, and C. Only goes to council if it's over $50,000. That's what the new policy says, and only to the community board if it's not A, B, or C. That's how I read it.
Through Mr. Chair, Councillor Mara is correct. That's the policy wording. It hasn't particularly changed. Typically, though, we would want to have a conversation with the community board because of the sensitivity of this fund, its history, and just good practice to engage with the board when money has been spent within the Motueka area.
And through the mayor, I think that's a very good intention, but it's not what the policy says. So I think it is an absolutely correct expectation, but at the moment, if it's under $50,000, the community board doesn't have to be consulted.
Mike.
I would still maintain, or I still recommend the council to leave that particular provision. It's a bit of a diminished role in terms, if you were to say that all matters have to be referred to the community board, there might be some quite minor work that would be referred to the community board. This fund is not extensively used at this time, and I think there are opportunities for the board and enterprise to consider what would be appropriate moving forward. More typically, we are doing investments out of this fund or doing interdepartmental loans from this fund to boost the income.
So can I just clarify in terms of that? So if it's within an approved budget, how does the budget get approved?
Through council approving the budget. It's just in your annual plan or your LTP budget.
In which case the community board would be involved in the budget setting process.
That is correct.
So the community board is involved in the $50,000 budgeted, whatever that involves. If it's unbudgeted, the council has to approve it. It can't be done by the enterprise committee.
Under the policy, it gives the enterprise committee that authority. And I will need to check whether it has that authority in its delegations other than through this policy.
Okay. Right. Councillor McKenzie, then Councillor Kinnamonth.
Thank you. Just, I guess my first one is a comment. So we've been talking about the maps and the lines on the map, and Councillor Dowers raised that he's not satisfied with it. Just to be clear, I don't understand what the risk is of adopting the new map as per the TRMP. So I'm left confused about that, but I know that that's not necessarily for Councillor Dowler to explain. I'm just being clear that I'm confused. And then the second question is, so 60,000 down to 30,000. I just want to be clear, we've reduced the scope of the work, I assume, or we have a more realistic understanding of what it might cost, or are we anticipating that we would have to come back to get more money?
Through you, Mr. Chair, at the Mr. Mayor, at the Motueka Community Board meeting last night, there was concern at the $60,000 amount, and they wanted to do some initial work that would inform the engagement with the public. We believe we could do that work for a lesser amount, and the board suggested a $30,000 approval would allow us to do that initial work in order to have a further conversation with the board.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Kinnamonth.
My question is along the same lines as Councillor McKenzie. $30,000 won't get you very much more than a desktop exercise, and having gone through a resource consent process involving coastal works, I know it's only going to be just a small sort of work, but I would like to see in there some understanding that this is up to 30,000, and there will be no further request for funding, because someone's got a grandiose idea. Let's add that in there. So I want to make sure that up to 30 is understood, and we're not going to have anyone coming back wanting a further funding.
Mike.
Depending on the outcome of the initial investigations, that there may well be a request for further funding. I think the focus of this is not to do work on the area that's specified. It's actually to develop a development plan like we did at Mapua, for example, so we can coordinate work between different council departments, so we can share a vision, if you like, for the area with the community. So it's likely to lead to better planning and better outcomes moving forward. So it's an options exercise. What are our options to develop? What are the tensions that are between the different users of that area? What might be the best way forward? That will inform some consultation ultimately with the public, and a development plan, usage plan for that area. That's the intention of that exercise. we believe we can do that initial work for around $30,000. It is likely if there is more work involved, there'll be a further conversation with the community board that will be informed by the work that we actually do.
Okay, thank you. I still don't have a mover and seconder. I'm looking to someone from Motueka probably because this, but I don't get any sense that any of them are that happy with anything about this particular thing, not in the broader sense. I'm just looking for something. Oh, Councillor Murray.
A question for you, Mr. Mayor, is in terms of the policy being ratified, is it it is a key part because it's the maps, isn't it? So the maps is the key part of this policy because I understood the old map actually included this area and the words didn't include the area. Or is it the opposite way around? Or so why can't we go back to the old map?
Mr. Chair, the old map was essentially an outline of where the high tide mark was, and so when we're talking about coastal works, there was some confusion of what coastal meant. Was it the intertidal region above the high tide mark, or was it everything below the high tide mark? And this review clarifies that.
So in effect, this gives more scope to do work because it moves that line inland. That's effectively what it's doing, right? Taking it away from the high tide mark, removing the conundrum, which is a moving mark. Obviously, it's not a static mark in actual reality versus the line on the map. And it's extending it inland so it provides more scope for whatever it is that gets proposed.
Yes, and it aligns it with the wording with it in the original policy.
Do you want to think about it?
The three of us, where I am is not necessarily the map. Where I am is the need to continue consult with the Motueka Community Board that has traditionally had involvement with this. And if I remember back to the original resolution, the only reason this went back is the Motueka Community Board.
I'll tell you what we're doing. So we're not going anywhere. So we'll move on to vehicle fleet replacement. In the interim, given it involves the same people, why do you think about it? And then we'll break for a cup of tea. And if you can collectively come up with something you want to move, we'll do it then. Nick, would you like to change hats / horses and move on to cars?
It's true, Mr. Mayor. This next item really comes about of the recent election. What we're asking for is approval to overexpend this year's budget by $154,000 with a commensurate decrease into next year's proposed expenditure. Doing this and being able to get some of the clean car rebates will save council about $50,000.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Reasonably self-explanatory. Open for questions, comments. Councillor Ducky.
Practical, logical thing to do. KR, they're doing it, makes sense. So happy to support, happy to move.
You happy to be Brian?
Yes. We'd like to get things done in Richmond and the rest of the district, so I'm happy to step in.
Great move.
It's Councillor Duffy's referred to.
Thank you. So we moved and seconded. Councillor Mackenzie.
Oh, thank you. Makes total sense. I guess the question I have just out of interest is, are we going to be able to procure this number of vehicles before the 31st of December?
Yes, we can. We checked this morning and they're available, but not for much longer.
Yeah, I thought we're already
Councillor Kinnemont, then Councillor Dowell.
It says in your report, I'll thank you through the chair. It says in your report the vehicle fleet replacement program is attached. Is this it? I haven't got a replacement program that I can see it's attached.
I'm pretty sure it's somewhere.
Apologies, Councillor, I haven't got paper in front of me, but it aligns with the strategy that was presented early in the year. But I can provide that straight after this meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Kinnemont. Councillor Dowler.
Yeah, I'm actually pleased to see that because we've spent a copious amount of money on 10 charging stations out there that I'd hate to think would just go out of cobwebs for the next year. And I'd get on with it.
All good. Right, it's been moved and seconded. Ask Councillor Walker.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick question. So on 4.2, it says it is anticipated that the clean car rebate ends on the 31st of December. If that date changed, would we be funding this right now?
We've had it confirmed that it's definitely ending at the end of this year, the rebate.
Information come through since the report's been written, because that word anticipate, it's a bit, open-ended. There's no certainty.
Yeah, I think it is certain it doesn't extend past 31, which is why all sorts of people would, which is why they're running out of cars to buy, because lots of people are trying to do the same thing.
Not that I'm opposed to
it. Yeah, no, that's all good.
Why spend money now if we actually didn't have to do it for a while when our budgets are the way they are?
So, I mean, we can change the wording, but I think the feedback is that since the report was written, the confirmation has been clear that it is going to end on 31. All right, I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. We're now going to break, and we're coming back to do, hopefully, relatively briefly, the Motueka Harbour and Coastal Works Reserves account with some agreed wording. The adoption of the protected disclosures policy, and receive the schedule meetings, then we'll move into committee.
Through Mr. Mayor, there's no direct implications, but it might be worth noting in the minutes that staff are requested to engage with the community board and bring back a revised policy proposal rather than just let it lie on the table.
Okay, so with that note, we will leave it to, so I need a mover. Jesus, a rash of movers from not now. So, okay. Move Councillor Walker, second to Councillor Maru, that the item be left alone on the table, noting that staff are requested to consult with the community board to bring back a revised recommendation. With that, I'll put the resolution. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Adoption of protected disclosures policy. Jenny, welcome.
Marina. I'll take the report as read. Public sector organisations have to have a document that establishes procedures around the processes under the Act. So Council does require to have one which we put in the form of a policy as well as procedures. There's just one change that I want to propose to the policy itself. It's a minor matter. It's a definition of disclosure in the policy which covers employees, contractors, members of council, including independent members. So we've got a clear definition of who is deemed to be a disclosure. But further on pages 4 and 5 of the policy, we refer specifically to an elected member or officer. So I propose that be changed to reference to a disclosure rather than narrowing down the definition of who may take actions under the policy. So it's just a minor drafting error, and that what we'll do is provide you with a corrected policy with the minutes. Happy to take any questions.
So can I just clarify for the resolution, receives the adoption as amended?
Yeah.
To pick up that wording changing, and then you'll circulate the revised wording post. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Jenny, just a question in terms of the definition of disclosure. So, with the absence of elected member, where do community boards sit in terms of being included in the list? So it's got mayor, councillors, independent members appointed to committees, but there's an absence around.
So the advice from the Ombudsman and that we've looked at refers to those involved with the management of the organisation. So we don't see that necessarily as just limited to the mayor and councillors. It would include independent members, and I believe the policy would extend to community board members as well. That's why we don't want it particularly narrowed down to elected member and staff member.
So I just struggle with this. So I get the management, including mayor, councillors and independent members appointed to committees. So community boards members are elected members, but not a mayor, not a councillor, and they're not appointed members to committees. It's my confusion over the definition to include them in the scope.
Well, the definition of disclosure is those involved with the management of the organisation, and then for clarity, it's stating including the mayors, councillors and independent members. If you would like to add members of the community board to that list, we can do that.
So that's amendment number 2. So the previous amendment as noted by Jenny and the second amendment to the wording as discussed or raised by Councillor Maru. Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you very much. We obviously had a discussion on this at the Audit and Risk Committee, and that committee was happy for this to come through to the full council. Just a couple of points from me. I mean, I think that you know, it's really important in an organisation that we have the open culture and the knowledge for people to be able to bring matters forward. So I think that within the organisation, it's really important that we use the right language. You know, people sort of understand whistleblowing. They don't necessarily understand protected disclosures. So I think we need to talk about it in a way that makes it accessible for staff to work out where to go. And primarily the thing is, it's really, really important that people are able to raise these matters in a confidential way. So without that, we won't actually build a culture of people bringing matters to the fore. So yeah, I think it's good to get this tidied up and revised. Thank you.
Are you happy to move?
Yes, I am.
Subject to the 2 amendments that have been discussed. Move Councillor Mackenzie. Is there a seconder? Seconded Councillor Maru. Are there any further questions? If not, I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Next up, we have the schedule of meetings for 2024. Robin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll take the report as read, noting that, of course, it will change.
Excellent.
It's an email.
It is.
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to move the resolution, noting what the author has just said, and note her appreciation of all the work she's done organising the meeting calendar, year calendar, and know that we all know that it will change.
Yes,
thank you for your efforts.
It might not be a female calendar, it might be a gender diverse calendar. Righto, I'll put the resolution. It's pretty machinery. Move Councillor Maru, seconded.
No, Councillor Bryant.
Oh, sorry, move Councillor Bryant, Deputy Mayor Bryant, seconded Councillor Maru. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Now we need to move it to go into committee. Move Deputy Mayor Bryant, seconded Councillor Mailing. All those in favour, please say aye.